Hello people, it's me, Libluini, and this time we're trying to play Dominion 6, Rise of the Prankto-Creator. And yes, it's a strategy game, it's complicated, and I'm doing this as multiplayer. So if you never see this video, this means that I died in about 10 turns in, and no video let's play ever happened. But them's the breaks, the curse of playing multiplayer. So first things first, my last Dominions video, a little multi-part guide where I'm probably making the next part soon from, and I was told that something was wrong about my audio. Apparently I had boosted my mic a bit too much, so I've tested something, and now I've reduced the angry hiss of my mic down to levels where I can't hear it if I roll the recording back, and I've also reduced the background music to compensate. So hopefully this will make for a more enjoyable experience in listening me ramble on about useless shit. So, how do you play multiplayer, you ask? Well, you click on network, and then you would normally enter the game lobby, which I already did for my free multiplayer games. And we are trying one that just now started. This one. Then the game does its thing, downloading map images and shit. Then we get the list of players, where we can click on really anything. Nothing of this makes sense if you aren't using your own nation. We're trying TNN, Land of the Ever Young. Elf Nation, Classic. You have the typical asshole elves, and while in the games prior to the to number 6, the elves were mostly masters of nature and air magic. They are now masters of nature and with brand new glamour magic. That's right, finally, for the first time in decades, the elves of the Dominion series are back to being evil shits, masters of illusion. And of course I had to do this. I had to try my best to be an evil elf asshole. So, to give you some context, in our community it's normally just common sense to make a password on your pretender god. That's the thing you're designing when you want to start the game. It's basically your evil hero to conquer the world. And well, thanks to the developers being a bit odd, you can theoretically, if no passwords are properly set, just take over someone else if he hasn't really played. Or you can play their turns and all manners of evil shit you can pull, which we make impossible by just being nice fellows who use increasingly complicated passwords to make sure no one can take over for us. So, after I fed you my half-truths, I start by clicking on my nation. Then the game demands my super secret mega password, and then we'll wait, and it's time for Gem and Hologram, the goddess of TNN. It's the year 0. In the beginning there was chaos. Out of chaos rose worlds populated with multitudes of beings. Wars were fought. Kings and emperors rose and fell, and civilizations were built and crumbled as millennia passed. Gods, dark and strange, were worshipped in pagan temples. Still there was chaos. The gods fought among themselves, bringing ever greater ruin to those who would serve them. At last there was one, a being of great power and enlightenment, and absolute brutality, who rose above his or hers immortal peers and cast them out of the heavens into oblivion. From chaos came order, except for cases where this was a chaos god, of course, and with order came peace, and the creatures of the world flourished. The age of chaos had ended, or begun, depending on viewpoint. So that's the background story, and now the wheel has turned once again. The supreme god or goddess has suddenly disappeared. Prayers are left unanswered, and the smoke of offerings rises in vain to the heavens. No one knows why he or she disappeared, But it is certain that the people of the world are once again left without direction, without guiding principle, without order, or without chaos, I guess. Okay, at this point this stops making sense, I guess. Now is the time for the beings of great power and ambition to try their strength. The throne of the heavens stands empty, and only the strongest can rise to supremacy over all. Only the most powerful can ascend to take the place of he who came before, or she who came before. This is a time of great strife and suffering. This is a time of magic unequaled. This is the Ascension Wars. And with this little blurb, we start. Since this is basically a completely, what was the word for it, random map, since we are still at the beginning of Dominion 6, not many custom maps have been made. This is how it looks when you start. Here you have your capital, your fortress, and all your basic first troops and shit. And you can only see directly in front of you, because yes, Dominion 6 now has that weird shit that some strategy games have, where everything is total darkness until you send scouts in. Okay, I guess in a fantasy game I can allow for this. In a science fiction game it's a bit weird, I guess satellites don't exist sometimes. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked again. One of the first things you can do is change some map filters. I like to see my Dominion candles, so I switch this on. You can of course freely do whatever you want yourselves here. If you get tired of looking at your temples, laboratories and other shit, you can switch this off, for example. I don't care for the rest, let's get on with it. Now we have this little candle here, which means we better do something with this, I suppose. I mean, the game dutifully creates chances for expansion of our belief system. Without any enemy belief intruding on us, we have basically free reign, since this 85% chance, thanks to our Dominion strength of 7, means that essentially every time we try, we get a chance, we get a new candle somewhere. Here is a handy list. Home province automatically gives us one, or one temple gives us one, and as soon as our sleepy goddess wakes up we get more chances, and if we make a profit to spread the belief in 80s music, then we get another chance. So it starts piling on, and as you can see here, this yellowish field shows the provinces where Gem and the holograms is worshipped. A single candle here and there. So what happens is, if the game rolls for expansion, it will pick the surrounding provinces and then try. And at 85% and 4 chances, our belief will basically spread far and easy, at least for the moment. Of course, it can also happen that a chance gets basically trapped because other provinces are too far away. But honestly, I can't remember for shit the exact rules of belief system or Dominion expansion. Hell, see where the game's name came from. So what happens is, over time, we get more candles here, up to 7 I think, because that's my current Dominion strength. But a little future thing, if I build more temples, my Dominion actually gets stronger over time, and there is something called thrones, magical thrones I can take over, which would then, if I claim those, give my Dominion even more strength. It's complicated and we haven't even started yet. So, one of the more important things is going to the recruitment screen, where all manner of shit we'll go over in detail later. Just look at this. Extremely expensive and 4 commander points means that since our fortress only gives us 2 per turn, we have to wait, and then the beginning of the game of a multiplayer run is a bit dangerous. Lots of stats. Important for us is defense. That means this guy is hard to hit. There's all this magical crap here. Let's skip over this. That's for the future. What we need right now is the She-Lord. Man, I hope I don't fuck up the pronunciation. I'm basically going over a mix of fantasy novels and people telling me how Irish stuff is pronounced, and I can be wrong. Very wrong, in fact. Oh, a skilled rider. That's because in Dominion 6 this is actually not one unit, but instead 2 units, because you can have the horse without a rider and the rider without a horse. Smart mount is something I have no idea what it is, because I'm new to Dominion 6. I've played 5 a lot, so it's sacred and it's poison resistant. Well, it's a fey horse, not just a normal horse, I guess. Let's get back a step. The rider. This is the stats of the rider. He's a spell singer, which means that these creepy elves take a bit more time to cast spells since they have to sing a song first. But they take a lot less fatigue because singing is cool and casting spells is not. And fatigue is basically the game's mana. You're growing in fatigue if you do shit like attacking or casting spells, and if it hits 100 points, then the unit falls asleep, or commander in this case. 335 years is basically the standard age for every She-Lord I will recruit. And max age is 625. That is something that we will probably never see an Elf Lord hitting in a normal game. Then you have here a list of equipment. A golden spear is a really neat little weapon, sadly only for elves, but it also does magic damage, which is nice because this penetrates several creepy magical creatures' protection. Then I guess I should go here over fast. Skilled rider means oh yes, that is good for moral and defense skill of the mount. So if something strikes the mount instead of the rider, being a skilled rider means the attacker probably gets the full face of horse hooves and the like. Well, it's of course the best with lightly armored horse, because it's also reducing the encumbrance value of the mount's armor. No, I read this the wrong way. It is reduced by the encumbrance of the mount's armor. And encumbrance means the more armor a horse or whatever you're riding carries, the worse. So, Fey horse, fairly high defense, good attack. This means they're getting basically extremely high defense skill thanks to the riders. I also have glamour, which basically makes you invisible on the strategic map. Oh, my English is getting worse the more I talk. Yes, and in battle it basically recreates a spell called Mirror Image, which makes it harder to hit those freaky horses. Same thing for She-Lords. Of course, She-Lords, funnily enough, lack the naturally poison resistance. I guess they aren't as magical as their horses. Dark vision means because they are elves, they can look into darkness, and 50 means 50%. So if there is darkness and you get penalties to your stats, then those penalties in turn are reduced by 50%. A neat little bonus. Supply bonus means that this creepy magical elf lord creates supplies instead of eating them. Also useful if you want to command large armies. Forest survival just means that you can march through forest provinces easier, and this means faster. Also useful, iron vulnerability. That's where it's an elf, and 1 means that every time something made from iron can do damage, you get an extra point of damage on top of the normal damage. So it's not exactly instantly killing, but this unit only has 15 so it can turn a non-lethal hit into a completely lethal one. Of course they have glamour like their horses, and they're extremely stealthy, so you can hide them and be nasty with them. Sacred means whatever magic power or god can give via blessings will infuse these commanders here with the same powers. A priest level 2 is good, it's fairly high level for a priest, and also of course means they can just bless themselves. Nice power up. Glamour is the new type of magic that revolves around illusion, and nature of course, because elves. The rest are empty equipment slots. There are other things like leadership. This is important to note, because she-lords are not only mages, really scary when fighting, they are also, coincidentally, important leaders. And since we're at the very beginning of the game, we need them because they are scary. Now we have some money left over for normal troops, and of course we want more creepy elves who are sacred and are stealthy. And of course we again have these guys. They are basically like she-lords but on foot, and they are common infantry. Elf infantry to be sure. They also have golden spears and can do magic damage if you hit some things. And they can throw basic javelins. They won't go far, but I always like massing guys like these and then just order them to just throw their dumb javelins. Since there is not much ammunition, it's better than just let them not use them at all. They throw those things 2 times and then they march forward for combat. That's important because this is not a lance. And this is not a rider. What I mean by this, there are certain spear type weapons like riding lances that give a charge bonus on attack. That means if you just charge in with those units and they have to run a long way, then the end result is a good chunk of extra damage if they hit something. Of course, this is most likely to be found on cavalry units. Funnily enough, not on our elves. They don't get a charge bonus. They are not real cavalry, they're just weird creepy elves with a spear in their hand. But they can stab real good. And of course, creepy and stealthy is why we are here. And then we run out of resources to recruit anything anymore. Expensive, so we get 5 per turn from those. And we have holy pawns left over. To explain, the Dominion strength is also the maximum amount of units, of sacred units and commanders you can recruit. So since we have those 5 and those 5, that's 6. But we had 7, so there's 1 point left over. So if in the future we get more resources or more gold, then we can recruit 1 more. Fancy that. So, of course the problematic is we don't have our creepy super elves right now. We just have, well, let's take a look at this guy. It's a Fearborg. It's some kind of almost human race. They're basically a really special kind of humans, if you want to. They come from some kind of evil giant island called Formoria. And while they generally have better stats than just common humans, like again, lots of attack and defense skills and more hit points, again context. In Dominions, a basic human tends to have 10 hit points. 1 more or less if the creature is a bit weaker or a little bit stronger, but still meant to be like slightly human-sized. This of course means that those guys with 13 hit points are a little bit stronger than your normal humans. And since they're the servants of elves, they have nothing made of iron. Which is funny, there are actually spells in this game that can destroy stuff made of iron, but our creepy elves and elf adjacent people don't really need to care about this. Whoops, I meant to say stay behind troops. That's something I've done because sometimes stay behind troops is interpreted by a commander by, oh, my troops have started walking, so I should start walking too. It can be wrong, but it's giving me a bit psychological power to just tell them to hold for 2 turns to make extra sure they're not just immediately behind the troops if something goes wrong with scripting. Yeah, it's basically a ritual. I'm not even sure it's truly needed. And just sometimes these games can scare you with how complex they are, and I need this. Anyway, again, we have some better than basic troops who can actually throw sharp sticks at the enemy before going in with their spears. Sadly, they don't have magic attacks, it's just a basic spear. And since the spears do pierce damage, this means they can better penetrate armor, because it's piercing damage. But there are certain types of defense and enemies where piercing damage is not exactly optimal. But let's see if they even need them. So I set those to fire on the closest enemy, and because my weird civilian commander here is not very inspirational, he can absolutely do nothing. He is some sad sack of shit. He only knows how to put troops into boxes or bigger boxes. So let's just stand them here in front. No, sorry, of my commander. This means when battle is joined, they will march forward and then throw their little sticks and then fight. Really basic. And then we have these guys here. They are slingers. 30 is, well, that's not the shortest. But considering even a basic bow has something like 35, and good crossbows can be 40 and even more length, 30 is, let's just say there won't be outranging anything. They also have almost no protection. But we are lucky because they are also a little bit stronger and have a little bit more morals, so they are less prone on dying or running away. So what can we do with those guys? Well, we also tell them to fire. Let's target enemy archers and hope we're being lucky. Since those units tend to be far cheaper than even our basic combat troops, I like to put them in front. This has the result that, well, since our basic infantry has insanely short range on their javelins, they will start marching anyway to get into range. Those guys will be forced to march too, but since they have so much more range, they will eventually stop and just start pelting the enemy with stones. Our units will then march forward and go into melee combat. That's the idea. Let's see how this works out in practice. And here we have my basic script for scouts, because that's a scout. Stealthy, and, well, not much else to say. They can't lead for shit, and I like to put them slightly behind. Their only purpose in life is to go somewhere, and if they get attacked, they get one chance to run away. If it's in enemy territory, most likely they'll just die. But hey, now I can move them, and Grave, Arrow and Sneak here means that there will be sneaking, and, well, in enemy territory this will actually do something besides looking gnarly. In this case it just means that instead of attacking whoever lives here normally, they'll go there and then make a report for us to read. And that's basically it for the first turn in the game. We are scouting a bit, we started recruiting a bit, and at some point we need a prophet. Okay, to give you a bit information about what I am planning to do here, I want to use those little she-lords as a fast-moving attack squad in the beginning of the game, fairly abusing that I have an insane blast that makes it really hard, extremely hard to hit them, and the independent units around us probably have absolutely no answer to the shit I came up with. Let's see, I can look at my blast here. Moral +1 is standard, it's something everyone gets. Defense skill +2 is water magic blast, and does exactly what it says. It makes a unit harder to hit in combat. Blur is complicated. It's, instead of adding more defense, it basically turns you into a walking hologram, hard to hit, since it's blurry like it's a hologram from an 80s science fiction movie. And as long as a unit or commander attacking you can't deal with this shit, the most basic thing it happens is that their attack is reduced by, I think it was 2 points. So it's a hidden +2 to the defense skill buff. Just in this case the enemy attack is reduced, not the defense skill of the own side heightened. And this is in a way even more useful. For us, it's important to know it's part of the magic blast that's always there, even if my goddess isn't actually awake right now because I squeezed the design window for more points. But on the other side, since she is now dormant, this means I have to wait at least a year or 12 turns before she wakes up. And since I didn't want my elves to have important parts of their blessy magic switched off, this is called incarnate blessers. They only work if your pretender god is actually awake. So I concentrated on just piling on the bonuses for defense. And Blur is even a bit more effective, since the problem with defense mechanic is if you get surrounded, then a unit or commander will start amassing penalties to their defense, and even weak enemies will sometimes just overwhelm even the fastest commander and just stabs them in the back. With Blur that's even harder to do now, because it doesn't care about surrounded penalties, because it just straight up reduces the attack score of any attacker. So they still get a penalty to their own attack, and in theory this means they should survive far longer than in earlier games, but let's see. The last part of this is another part like Blur from the glamour magic side. Heroism just gives you a straight 50% bonus to experience points, so that your unit automatically, as long as it survives at least some battles, gets stronger. And as you can see, hard 100% means twice as much speed up through the level 3, because I got 2 bless points on this. So we now have really angry elves who can be almost not be hit, can still hit fairly hard by themselves, who move fast, who are stealthy, and to keep up the assholishness, they're also getting far stronger, far faster than other comparable units. You can see this, let me check where it is. Experience 0. As soon as I start killing and surviving, they get experience points and soon bonuses to their stats. That's what this is all about. And since they're fairly expensive, I really don't want them to die anyway. So, some minor shit. This game is also about magic. And since our she-lords, if they aren't walking into other provinces to wreak havoc, are also mages and researchers, it's time to research some magic. Important to know is some of our magic is good for buffing. Mirror image is, funnily enough, not exactly something we need, since a lot of our mages have this inherent. But those spells are also good because they can hit anyone, including the non-elves. So it's nice because spells like these and their stronger versions, this is the weakest shit, gives area effect, range 20, basically just one dude. But there are stronger versions of those spells, and yeah, it's kind of a neat idea, I guess, because it means in later game phases our glamour mages can use spells like those to give our non-sacred units the same creepy superpowers, like Group Blur, which now has an area effect of 3+, and 3+ means if the plus indicates that if the mage is stronger than the level 2 that's necessary to even cast it, then you get a stronger area of effect. So 3 is already not so bad for this kind of spell, but if you imagine someone has level 6 instead of level 2, then this would add 4 more, and we had a total area of effect of 7 little squares on the field. Oh, a maximum of 7 units could be getting this. Yeah, and here's the explanation I just told you. Attack skill reduced by 2. Of course, there are some other magic powers to counter this, but it's for everything. Of course, funny thing, blind. Units that are naturally blind, of course, aren't affected by this either. And fatigue cost 40 means a mage can cast this exactly 3 times in a row, then he is asleep for a couple turns until he recovers. A level 2 mage. There is this mechanic where fatigue gets higher the more you label out. Okay, that's complicated, I leave that part for next. That involves magic gems and shit. But if you go into the other direction, the fatigue cost goes down by, I think, half per each level. So 40 would be 20 for a mage who has level 3, 10 for one who has level 4, and so on. Going by memory. Anyway. There is... yeah, Alteration had some nice buffing spells here. And Conjuration. Let's cook. That is good. Ah, Tapestry of Dreams is basically a spy spell. That's also interesting. But I don't want to keep you too long here. Oh, some Fey folk. Ah, I keep forgetting, since we have now the real fairies here with our evil elves. That means we can also start summoning elf people. Consequently, they get stronger and stronger the further we go into Conjuration. So let's make a mix, like a little bit Alteration, a little bit Conjuration. And since this will take a while with our current research speed of 0, we are finished for now. So, next turn we'll actually try attacking someone. Is there something I can squeeze in for our weird fear-board warriors? No, because we have 0 resources left. Ah, okay. Then let's leave it at that. Next turn I'll have to make a choice. Let's see, leadership, and you can have 2 squads. That's shit. No. That's a bit annoying. I need a prophet. I guess this dude then has to be the prophet, which means he can't be part of my attack squads. I guess I have to do something with my starting army then. So let's see what happens next turn. For this time we end it. I know he's doing nothing. And that was the first turn. Whew. Man, sorry for talking so much. Let's see how this goes next turn. Probably fast when the last player is finished here. Diploini out.